Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty cool. It's this new AI technique called GraphRAG, and it's all about we're always drowning in information these days,
Yeah.
but actually getting insights from it all is a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Totally. So GraphRAG is all about making sense of massive amounts of data. And helping us see those connections that are hidden. It's called global sensemaking. So we've got this technical report we're going to be using to break it down. But don't worry, we're going to keep things pretty jargon-free and focus on what you actually need to know.
So what's really cool about GraphRAG is that it's not just about finding specific facts. It's like building this giant knowledge web where everything's connected in a meaningful way.
Oh, knowledge web. So instead of getting lost in the sea of information, we get a map to navigate it. It sounds way better than my current system of just frantically bookmarking articles and never reading them.
Exactly. And the report uses a great example to illustrate this. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. So imagine taking all the characters and the events and the themes from the story and mapping them out as nodes in a giant web.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize this. So we've got Scrooge, Tiny Tim, the Ghosts of Christmas. What kind of connections would we see?
Well, you'd have connections like Scrooge employs Cratchit, or the Ghost of Christmas Past shows Scrooge his past. And these relationships, they become the threads that weave the whole story together. And you can really see how everything's interconnected.
Oh, so instead of just seeing isolated facts like Scrooge is a grumpy guy,
Right,
or Tiny Tim is sick, we see how those facts relate to each other and how they contribute to the bigger themes. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's what allows GraphRAG to answer these big thematic questions, not just simple factual ones. You could ask things like, what are the main themes of A Christmas Carol? Or how does Scrooge's past influence his present behavior?
Wait, hold on. You're telling me this AI can actually read A Christmas Carol and understand the themes. How does that even work? Is it some kind of super intelligent bookworm AI?
Well, not exactly a bookworm, but it does involve some clever AI and a two-stage process, indexing and querying. So indexing is like building the knowledge web.
Yeah.
And querying is how we use that web to find the answers.
Okay, let's break that down. What happens during the indexing stage?
Okay, so imagine you have this huge book, like our Christmas Carol example. The first step is to break it down into manageable chunks of text.
So kind of like breaking the book down into bite-sized pieces that the AI can digest.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And then it uses AI to identify the key players or entities and the relationships between them. So it would recognize Scrooge and Jacob Marley as entities and business partners as the relationship between them.
It's like the AI is reading the book.
Yeah.
And creating this character relationship map in its digital brain. That's impressive.
It is. And it doesn't stop there. It also creates summaries for each entity, eliminating redundancy, focusing on the essential information.
So we're not bogged down with every little detail, just the key points. Makes sense.
Exactly. And then comes a really fascinating part, community detection. So the AI groups related information into clusters, like the Scrooge family, the Cratchit family, the Ghosts of Christmas.
Oh, so it's basically organizing the information.
Into themes.
Or storylines. This is starting to sound like a very organized digital library.
Precisely. And then finally, each cluster gets its own concise summary, giving us a high-level overview of each theme. And all of this information is then translated into a special code that the computer understands, which makes it super fast to search and retrieve.
Okay, so we've built our knowledge web, we've got our summaries.
Yeah.
And everything is neatly coded for easy access. Now, how do we actually use this thing to answer questions?
That's where querying comes in. GraphRAG has these 3 different search modes, global, lova, and DFD, each designed for different types of questions.
Ooh, options.
Yeah.
I like options. Tell me more about these search modes. What's the difference between global, local, and, DRFT search?
Let's start with global search. It's like getting a bird's eye view of the whole knowledge web. So you could ask, what are the main themes of A Christmas Carol? And GraphRAG would analyze all those cluster summaries to give you a really comprehensive answer.
So it's not just spitting out a random list of facts. It's actually synthesizing information from across the whole story to identify those overarching themes. That's pretty impressive.
Exactly. Now, local search is more focused. It's like zooming in on a particular section of the map. So if you ask, how is Scrooge connected to Jacob Marley? It would hone in on those 2 entities and their direct relationship.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like getting a close-up view of a specific connection. What about drift search? That one sounds a bit more mysterious.
Drift search is where things get really interesting. It expands on local search by considering the broader context of a community. So it's like asking, what's the overall impact of the ghosts on Scrooge's life? It goes beyond just looking at the individual spirits and considers their combined influence.
So with Griff Search, it's not just about isolated facts, it's about understanding the bigger picture and how different elements interact to shape the narrative. I'm starting to see how this could be really powerful for making sense of complex information.
You got it. Now I know all this technical talk might sound a bit abstract, so let's bring it to life with that Christmas Carol example.
Yes, let's see this thing in action. Show me how these different search modes work.
Okay, so let's say we use global search to ask, what are the main themes of A Christmas Carol? GraphRAG would analyze the summaries for all those communities, the Scrooge family, the Cratchit family, the ghosts, and identify recurring themes like redemption, compassion, the importance of family, and the dangers of greed. It's like having an AI literary critic giving you a thematic analysis of the story.
Wow, that's really cool. It's actually reading and understanding the book,
Yeah.
not just picking out keywords.
Exactly. Now let's switch to local search and ask, how is Scrooge connected to Jacob Marley? GraphRAG would zoom in on those two characters and find connections like business partners and warns Scrooge. So it's giving us a very specific answer based on their direct relationship.
Okay, that's helpful for understanding the dynamics between those two characters. Now, what about drift search? Let's try that ghosts question. How did the spirits influence Scrooge's transformation?
With drift search, GraphRAG wouldn't just look at the individual spirits, it would consider the entire Ghosts of Christmas community and their combined impact on Scrooge. So it would analyze how each spirit, past, present, and yet to come, contributes to his journey, highlighting things like the fear instilled by the Ghost of Christmas yet to come, the compassion evoked by the Ghost of Christmas present, and the regret triggered by the Ghost of Christmas past.
So it's not just giving us like a list of facts about each ghost, it's explaining how they work together to drive Scrooge's transformation. It's like seeing the whole choreography of the story, not just individual dance moves. This is really impressive. But I have to ask, why should our listener care about all this? How does GraphRAG actually apply to their everyday life?
That's a great question. The potential applications of GraphRAG are vast. Think about any situation where you're trying to make sense of complex information. Like imagine you're a doctor researching a new cancer treatment. GraphRAG could map out all the relevant research papers, highlighting key findings, controversies, connections to other treatments, helping you grasp the landscape and identify promising avenues more efficiently.
That's a great example. Instead of spending hours sifting through mountains of research, you get a clear roadmap of the most important information.
Exactly. Or let's say you're an entrepreneur trying to make a big decision about your business. You could use GraphRAG to analyze market data, competitor information, and customer trends to get a holistic view of the landscape.
This sounds incredibly valuable. For anyone who needs to make informed decisions in a world overflowing with data, it's like having an AI advisor that can help you see the forest for the trees.
Precisely. But it's not just for professionals. Let's say you're passionate about history and you want to understand a specific event more deeply. GraphRAG can help you explore historical documents, primary sources, scholarly articles, connecting the dots, and revealing the event's complexities within its broader historical context.
This sounds promising, but it still has some questions. For example, how does GraphRAG deal with conflicting information from different sources? Is there a risk of bias creeping into the knowledge web?
That's where the concept of transparency comes in. The report highlights a tool called Weave that's used alongside GraphRAG. Think of it like an auditor for your AI. It allows developers to peek behind the curtain and see how the knowledge web is being constructed.
So it's not just a black box spitting out answers. We can actually see how the AI is making connections and drawing its conclusions.
Exactly. And this level of transparency is crucial for ensuring the accuracy and reliability of the knowledge web, especially when we're talking about something as powerful as global sense-making.
I can see why that would be important. If you're using GraphRAG to make important decisions, you need to be confident that the information is accurate. You don't want to base a medical diagnosis or a business strategy on faulty information just because the AI got confused.
Absolutely. Weave provides a clear audit trail of the entire process, ensuring that the knowledge web is built on a solid foundation. It's like having a fact checker for your AI.
Okay, so we've got this amazing AI that can build knowledge webs and answer complex questions, and we've got this trusty sidekick, Weave, making sure everything is accurate and reliable. But like any technology, I'm sure GraphRAG has its limitations. Is it really a magic bullet for all our information overload problems?
You're absolutely right. GraphRAG is powerful, but it's not magic. One of the biggest challenges is that the sheer computing power that you need to build and search these knowledge webs, especially for these massive data sets.
So it's not something I can just do on my laptop, huh? Sounds like it would take a supercomputer to crunch all that data.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It requires significant processing power, especially for these complex tasks, like community detection and generating those special codes we talked about.
That makes sense. I mean, we are talking about mapping out the universe of information here. It's a huge undertaking.
Exactly. But the good news is the field of AI is constantly advancing, and researchers are developing these new techniques to make these processes more efficient. So as technology improves, GraphRAG will likely become more accessible to a wider range of users.
That's encouraging. So access to computing power is one hurdle. What other limitations should we be aware of?
Another key factor is data quality. If the information that we feed into GraphRAG is incomplete, inaccurate, or biased, that's going to affect the accuracy and the reliability of the entire knowledge web. It's like building a house on a shaky foundation. It doesn't matter how beautiful the structure is. If the base is unstable...
So garbage in, garbage out, as they say. We need to be careful about the sources and make sure the information is accurate and reliable.
Precisely. It's not enough to just throw a bunch of data at GraphRAG and hope for the best. We need to be thoughtful about data preparation, ensuring accuracy, and minimizing bias. Luckily, there are techniques for cleaning and validating data to improve its quality.
Data quality is crucial. Yeah. Okay, so let's assume we had a perfectly clean, unbiased data set. Yeah. And we've got access to all the computing power we need. Are there any other limitations, like inherent to the way GraphRAG works?
Well, like any AI, GraphRAG can sometimes struggle with the nuances of human language. So it might misinterpret sarcasm or humor or figurative language. Natural language processing has come a long way, but it's still an area of active research.
So while it excels at understanding factual relationships, it might stumble when things get more subjective or abstract. We need to remember that AI is a tool, and like any tool, it has its limitations.
Right. It's not a replacement for human intelligence and critical thinking, but it's a powerful tool to augment our abilities.
Okay, so GraphRAG is powerful, but not perfect. It's got some limitations, but it also has incredible potential for helping us make sense of the world. But I know our listeners are probably wondering, can I use GraphRAG right now, or is this just a futuristic concept?
That's a great question. There are already several open source tools and libraries that are available for working with GraphRAG and knowledge graphs.
So if you're a developer or data scientist, you can start playing around with it today. But what about the rest of us non-techies? Will we ever get to experience the magic of GraphRAG?
Absolutely. There are companies and research institutions that are developing commercial applications of GraphRAG. That will make it more accessible to a wider audience. And the field is moving really quickly, so I think it's just a matter of time before we see GraphRAG integrated into everyday tools and applications.
That's exciting. I can already imagine all sorts of possibilities. Personalized news feeds that actually connect the dots. Educational tools that help us understand complex subjects more deeply. Even creative tools that can help us write stories or compose music. The potential is really mind-boggling.
It really is. It has the potential to revolutionize the way we learn, work, and make decisions.
It's like we're on the cusp of a knowledge revolution. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the inner workings of GraphRAG to its limitations and potential applications. I feel like I've learned a ton. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to that idea of global sense-making. It's such a powerful concept, and I think it's becoming increasingly important in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with information from all directions.
Absolutely. GraphRAG offers a way to tame that information overload and extract meaningful insights. So instead of just passively consuming data, we can actively engage with it and understand its deeper meaning. We can move beyond the what and start exploring the why and the how.
It's about understanding the connections, the patterns, and the narratives that shape our world, and using that understanding to make better decisions, solve complex problems, and create a more informed and equitable future.
Well said. GraphRAG can be a powerful tool for positive change.
I love that. So as we conclude this deep dive into GraphRAG, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question. If you had access to a GraphRAG system right now, what would you use it to explore? What burning questions would you ask?
That's a great question to ponder. The possibilities are truly endless.
Exactly. And it really highlights the fact that GraphRAG isn't just a technical tool. It's a tool for exploration, discovery, and understanding. It's a way to unlock the hidden knowledge within data and use it to make a positive impact on the world.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you.
The pleasure was all mine. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into GraphRAG. We hope you learned something new and exciting today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more deep dives into fascinating topics. Until next time, keep exploring.